We're going to start off with rootstocks first. This tree is a peach tree. And as you can see here at the bottom, it's got a dog leg right here, right? Okay, that dog leg is where that bud graft was grafted onto this rootstock right here. The rootstock is planted from seed. It is generally chosen for certain characteristics, such as it does well in sand or in clay and wet conditions. It may be disease or pest resistant, but it has certain characteristics that rootstock has been bred for over time and has now become some type of an industry standard. The peach is grafted onto that rootstock, and after the peach that we want has grown up big enough, they come in and they cut the rest of the rootstock off, and now you've got a peach tree. Okay? All of what we call stone fruits, peaches, plums, nectarines, and apricots, are generally going to be done on Guardian, Nemagard, Lavelle, or Halford. Guardian is what most of ours are grown on. It's a great rootstock for all the stone fruits. It does well in a multitude of different types of conditions, and it also is certified virus-free, meaning that there's no disease in the tree when you buy it, because sometimes diseases can get into trees even while they're here at the nursery. Nemagard and Lavelle. Nemagard is good in sandy soils because it helps. It has defenses against nematodes. And then the Lavelle is really good in wet soils and clay soils if you live in an area where you've got the black gumbo or the hard red clay. Again, I want to point out that you don't have to have a doctorate in these different types of rootstocks. You come in, you tell us where you live, what your soil's like, and we can guide you on what's the right one to choose. Apples are going to be, most of them are going to be M111, M7, M106, M26. Again, different characteristics. A lot of times, the rootstock is also going to be an indicator of how large or small the tree is going to get. This is a Red Delicious apple. It is a dwarf apple. It is on M7 rootstock. This is a peach tree that is also on dwarf rootstock. They look a little different, don't they? They do. Okay. When we talk about dwarfing, semi-dwarf, standard semi-dwarf, and dwarfing rootstocks, they can mean a lot of different things depending on the tree variety. With peaches, you can get a true dwarf. This tree will never be more than about 6 to 7 feet tall when it's full grown. In 20 years, it will be no taller than I am. When you talk about a dwarf apple tree, a dwarf apple tree is going to probably get to 10 to 12 feet tall. So even a dwarf apple is going to be much larger than a dwarf peach just because of the growth characteristics. Okay? Pears are generally on Kelleriana. I'm expecting this to probably change in the next 5 to 10 to 15 years. Kelleriana is also what the Bradford pear is. A lot of states are considering it to be an invasive species now. The cherries, these are the different types here: Mazard, Mahaleb, Krimsk. Again, don't get caught up in too much about what each specific one is. When you come into the store, we can help you pick the right one. I did talk already a little bit about the dwarf versus semi-dwarf versus standard. Most standard fruit trees, apples, peaches, plums, pears, they're going to get 20 to 25 feet tall. A semi-standard might be more in the 13 to 15 foot range for an apple, about the same size for a peach. And then again, when we're talking about dwarfs, you can have anywhere from a dwarf peach that's 6 feet tall up to a dwarf apple that's going to be 10 to 12 feet tall. Okay? If you live in a suburban neighborhood where you have a small yard, a lot of times we do recommend, and people are looking for, the dwarfing rootstocks, because you can then get more trees planted in your yard versus having a wide, a few small trees, a few large trees taking up a small space. So I mentioned a minute ago that the peach, plum, nectarine, and apricot are all what we call stone fruits. Something that a lot of people don't realize too is almonds are also a part of that same species or genus. So all of our apple trees are also, all of our almond trees are also grafted onto peach or plum rootstock as well. If you've ever seen an almond pit, it looks very much like a peach pit.